Hi, Pagan Shooter here. Back with another video on something that I had to kind of figure out myself. Leather holsters. Now, er, most people like leather holsters because of their durability and the fact that they usually fit the gun rather well. There's Kydex out there. I know there's nylon out there, but as far as to me, the leather holsters I think are probably some of the most desirable holsters out there. Now I do own a few form fitting. I do own a couple of nylon, but my preference is actually the leather ones. But I had to figure out how to make the gun fit because when you first get one of these things, they're not really fit to the guns. They have a basic shape to them, but they honestly don't fit that well. It's really hard to get the gun in, it's really hard to get the gun out. And I had to go through and learn how to make them fit my gun. Now, there are methods where you soak the holster in water. You put your, oh, by the way, gun is completely empty, as is that gun. Both of them empty. So there are methods where you take your gun, you put it in a plastic bag, a Ziploc bag, take out all the air, you soak the holster in water overnight, and then you push your gun into it and you leave your gun in there overnight and let it dry. And to me, I think that discolors the leather. I think that it stretches the leather improperly. I don't like the fact that I've got so much water up against my gun and it's merely a thin piece of plastic protecting it. I'm not a big fan of that method. Now, I've heard it works, and it's really up to the individual to see if they want to do that, but to me, it seems like a bit of a risk. I don't like the idea of it. I've seen what water does to guns if it sits on there too long. I just don't like the idea of it. So another method is to oil it up really good and push it in and just kind of push it in there and keep it oiled until it forms to the gun. And once again, you end up with that same problem. It just colors the leather. I think it stretches it incorrectly. It stresses the leather. I don't think it's a good idea. So the method I decided to go with, which is actually an older method and probably one of the original ways to do it, is to just force the gun. And what does that mean? Well, these are two holsters that I had bought that are for the type of gun I have, but they're not specifically for this specific gun. And what you do is essentially you take your gun, you force it to where you want it to sit, and you leave it in there. You leave it in there for a couple of days. And then a couple days later, you pull it out and you, first off, let's take the hammer down. First off, you want to make sure that the gun is empty. You do not want to do this with a loaded gun. There is also nobody over here, so don't worry, I'm not pointing at people. So what you're doing is you're essentially taking the gun and you're forcing it in there and then pulling it out. And then you're forcing it in there and then you're pulling it out. So essentially what you're doing is you're basically wearing the holster in. You're making sure it gets to the point where you want it to sit, and then from there, you're leaving it in there, you sit down, you watch TV, you're working on something else, and then at night you take it, you put it in the holster, and you close it up and put it in your safe. You leave it in your safe. And then the next day you're doing something else, you take it out, you're essentially just forcing it in and out. You're giving it you're forcing it to take the gun and conform to the gun. And you're doing this while it's dry. And this actually will form the gun to it pretty smoothly. And in my opinion, you end up with a very clean, if you look, see how it slides in there and it stays in there pretty good. This is one of my concealed carry holsters, and it actually, I think, holds the gun very well. And in this case, I think I made the right choice. as far as how to break it in. Because if you notice, the holster isn't malformed at all. It fits perfectly to the gun. You do end up with some wear marks in the back of it, and this is where you slide the gun down to get it into the holster. And essentially, it slides right in. As far as the finish, I may wear a little of the finish off, but these are not show guns. They're carry guns. I use them. But once again, if you're looking to preserve your gun, you can actually find guns that are shaped, or fakes that you can get that are shaped like your gun, and you can try that. I'm not sure exactly where to get those. I've never actually purchased them, but I've seen them. But that's my method to breaking in a leather holster. I find that works out pretty good. I find that the holster actually holds it pretty well, and even without the tie down, it holds the gun in pretty well too. You end up with with some retention, but with a pull, it comes right out. How do you break in your leather holsters? Do you have one? Have you considered buying one? Go ahead and leave me a comment. Let me know what your method is, and if how it has worked out for you, and possibly even how you do it. Go ahead and like, subscribe, share this video if you find it'll help somebody, and we'll see you next time.